Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. Did not on the audio. Okay. Let me repeat. So what's your requirement is saving the data. And where do we save data? Data is saved under a data source like a file or a database. Any data source like file or a database. And if you want to save data in a data source, we can use any of the following options. First option, LINQ. Second option, and third option is AWS. LINQ, NT framework, and AWS. Any of the three options. And we started with LINQ. LINQ stands for Language Integrated Query. So what is LINQ? LINQ is a query language that is designed similar to SQL. What is SQL? What is the full form of SQL? Structured query language. Similar to SQL. That is structured query language. Okay. SQL language can be used only on relational databases. SQL is a language that can be used only on relational databases. Are you clear? And SQL is same for all. You know how to write a select statement in SQL Server. You can write the same select statement in Oracle also. You can write the same select statement in Oracle. You can write the same select statement in MySQL. Everywhere it works. Got your point? So SQL language can be used only on relational databases. It can be used only on relational databases. Whereas LINQ is designed to use on a wide variety of data sources, like we can use on arrays, collections, XML, and understand the difference, guys. SQL language can be used only on, whereas LINQ is designed to use on a wide variety of data sources. We can use it in a wide variety of data sources, like we can use LINQ on arrays. We can use LINQ on collections. You learned this already in your earlier C# classes, how to use LINQ on arrays, how to use LINQ on collections. Already in the C# you learned, everyone. Okay, we can use it on XML as well as we can use it on relational databases also. Now see, LINQ is divided into three parts. LINQ is divided into three parts. What are the three parts? Link to objects. By using this, we can write queries on arrays and collections. We can write a query on arrays and collections. And this is what you already completed in your C# classes. Every one of you learned about LINQ in your C#. How to use LINQ on arrays and collections. Second is LINQ to XML. The other name is XLINQ. We use this for writing. We can use this for writing queries on XML source. XML source. We can write queries on XML and fetch the data. We can use this for writing queries on XML and fetch the data. And third option is LINQ to databases. I repeat, the third option is LINQ to databases. What is this? We use it for writing. We use it for working with. We use it for writing queries on data tables of data set and relational databases. I repeat, we can use it on data tables of data set All of you know what is a data set and data table. Second thing, we can use it on relational databases also. Both the two things we can just use. Okay, guys. Under link to databases, we have three subcategorizations. Under link to databases, we have three subcategorizations. First one, link to datasets. Link to datasets. For writing queries on louder data tables of data sets. We use it for writing queries on data tables of data. Second option, what we have is link to SQL. Link to SQL. Okay. For this is for writing queries on data tables of data set. And when you talk about this one, guys, this can be used for interacting with SQL Server database. Is used for interacting with SQL Server database. Link to entities, also called as NT framework. And this can be used for interacting with any. Actually, guys, link to SQL, link to entities, both are same only. But actually, what happened is the first Microsoft has introduced link to SQL to work with SQL Server database. To work with, and this can be used only on SQL Server. But what happened, this became a very big success. Actually, this came into market in 3.5, .NET 3.5. And link to SQL is a very big success. A very big success. When it is a very big success, developers started asking the question, why not on other relational databases? You are giving the option only for SQL Server, but I want to work with Oracle. I want to work with PostgreSQL. I want to work with MySQL. So many relational databases are there. What about all of them? And finally, they are given as link to entities. And this can be used on. This is more advanced. After launching this, what they give that done is they given means slowly they just stopped this link to SQL. Available, but no updates. No updates. Okay, because what is it? Link to entities can be used on. When you can use on any relational database, SQL Server also comes there now. Understood my point? Okay, so when you are working with entities means you can work with any relational database. But if you're working with link to SQL means it's purely SQL Server. You can't use it on other relational databases. And what about link to data sets, sir? This is completely outdated. This is completely outdated. And we don't use this at all. It will be removed off. Going forward, we won't have three options. We will have only one option, that's all. Link to databases. Nothing but NT framework. Because link to SQL also gets merged with link to SQL. So we'll not have multiple options like this. Okay, that's why I say only three. What are the three? To work with arrays and collections. And third one is linked to work with relational databases. To work with relational database. Under the three subcategorizations are available. Like link to data sets, link to SQL, and link to entities actually. See the picture. On the top, you have your .NET languages, VB, C# or other .NET languages. And below that, what we have? Language integrated. What the meaning of it is? You can use LINQ in all .NET languages. On the top, you have .NET languages. Below that, you have LINQ now. So this indicates what? LINQ can be used in all the .NET languages. Are you clearer or not? And below that, we have the three options. LINQ enabled data sources, three options. First one, link to objects for working with arrays and collections. Last one, link to work with XML. And in the middle, Link to databases. Under link to databases, three options are there. The link to data sets to work with data tables of data sets. Second one, link to SQL to work with SQL Server. Third one, to work with any relational database. Is it clear? So link to database is for any relational. Link to objects is to work with objects. Link to XML is to work with XML. So going forward, only three options you will see. What is it? Link to objects, link to databases, link to XML. That's all. Are you clearer? Yes or not? Here I mentioned you link to object used to perform queries against the in-memory data like arrays or collections. You learned already about this in the C#. Link to databases. Link to datasets is used to perform queries against ADO.NET data tables. Link to SQL is used to perform queries against Microsoft SQL Server database. Link to entities used to perform queries against any relational database like SQL Server, Oracle, etc. Everything it was MySQL, PostgreSQL, whatever it is, on anything you can use. Link to XML. Other name, XLink. Use it to perform queries against the XML source. Is it clear? So what we are going to learn now is, we'll start with our intention is link to databases. And I said link to datasets is completely outdated. We don't use it anywhere at all. So what is left out? So first I'll start with link to SQL. I'll show you some examples on this, and then I'll take you to link to entities. We'll spend more time on link to entities than link to SQL. Is it clear, everyone? So we'll jump start with link to SQL first. Okay. This is specially designed for working with SQL Server database. So this is specially designed for working with SQL Server database. It's the first important point. Okay. Guys, you learned link to objects. In C# class, you learned link to objects, working with arrays and collections. And if you recollect link to object is all about querying the data. Link to objects is all about querying the data. We query values of the array. We query values of the collection, pair class, group by class, order by class, whatever we use. But what we do is only querying. Understood? Okay. But when you talk about link to SQL, listen, link to SQL is not only about querying the data, but allows us to perform all the operations like insert, update, delete, and select, which we call them as CRUD operations. Did you catch my point? When I taught you link to objects is only about querying, that's all. Link to objects is only about querying. Even link to XML is also about querying. Link to data sets is also about querying. Understood? But link to SQL is not only about querying the data, guys. It allows you to perform all the operations like insert, update, delete, and select. And what we call them as CRUD operations. We call them as CRUD operations. The CRUD stands for, the full form of create is create, read, update, and understand all of you. What is create, you know? Create means insert, read means select, update means update only, delete means delete only. And all of you recollect in the ADO.NET classes I said you, why your application wants to communicate with a data source. My application wants to communicate with a data source to perform select, insert, update, and delete operations. Yes or not? Your application wants to talk with a database for what? For inserting records, updating records, deleting records, selecting records. That's what we call them as CRUD. So going forward, we don't say select, insert, update, delete anymore. What we say? CRUD operations. Create, read, update, delete. Where create means insert, read means select, update is update only, and delete is delete only. So these are the 4 different activities what we just do here. So it's not only about selecting the data, but it's all about all the operations like insert, update, delete. Now, before we start working with LINQ, there will be a big dilemma for us. What is it? Sir, why do I need LINQ again? Because already we have SQL language available to work with SQL server. Yes or not? Why do I need LINQ on arrays and collections? Why do I need LINQ on arrays and collections? Because we don't have any other option to write queries on arrays and collections. If you want to get any data from arrays and collection, compulsory you're required to write loops. But with LINQ, we write a one-line statement to get the data. Yes or not? So LINQ on arrays and collection makes sense. Why? There is no other alternative to fetch the data from arrays and collections without writing complex codings. But the confusion is, do I really require LINQ to work with SQL server? Why? Already we have a language called SQL to work with SQL server. When there is a language called SQL to work with SQL server, what is the need of LINQ again to work with SQL server databases? Is my question clearer or not? What is that? What is the need of LINQ to work with SQL server when already we have a language called as SQL? Not SQL server, SQL. We already have a language called SQL. Then what is the need of LINQ? Okay, let's try to analyze it. Option 1. What you learned in ADO.NET? Using SQL, talking to. This is what you learned in ADO.NET. Do you remember? Now, LINQ also can be used to talk with SQL server. Okay, concentrate, guys. In ADO.NET classes, you learned using SQL to interact with SQL server. Now you have LINQ to interact with SQL server. So what is the difference between the two? Okay, let me explain you. First, the first difference is runtime syntax checking compile time syntax checking. Runtime syntax checking. What is runtime syntax checking? If I use SQL statements, in my C# application to interact with SQL server, all these statements are compiled. When I run my application. All these statements are compiled when I run my application. Why? Because the statements are inside the double quotes. So they are not understandable to C# compiler, understandable only to the database engine. So when you run, your application connects to database, sends all the statements to database. Database will compile the statements. Are you clear? What is the problem in runtime syntax checking? Runtime syntax checking means happens every time you run the application now. If I run my application for 1,000 times, the statements are rechecked. Why wasting the time? Already the statements are same. They won't change. Right. Today my application development is completed. I return some statements. Will they change again? Then why are you recompiling every time now? Wasting the time. But come here. Remember, your LINQ is pure C# code. We don't put your queries or statements inside of the double quotes. How do you write? From, alias, in, the name of your array or collection or table. Clauses, select. How you write? And that is pure C# code. So, because it is C# code, it is a compile time syntax checking will happen. What is the difference? Compilation of a program happens one time only here. So how many times is the syntax verified now? One time. Runtime syntax checking may happen one time or multiple times. So which one is good performer now? LINQ SQL. That is the first advantage. That is the first advantage. Second, not type safe. What is this, sir? Recollect yourself in ADO.NET here. Every value from the database comes to you as object only. Do you remember or not? In ADO.NET, every value comes to you as a object only. Employee number is an integer, but will come as object. You want to assign to a text box, you will say dot choosing again. Employee name is string only, but still I will get the value as a object. I should again convert into string. Understand now? It involves in boxing and unboxing now. Array, lot of time waste here. Converting string to object, again converting object to string, converting integer to object, again object to integer. This all is going to be time consuming now. All these conversions. But when you come to here, what you know? Type safe programming. Type safe programming. What is that? Employee number comes from the database as integer only. Employee name comes from the database as string only. Okay. Salary comes as decimal only. Status comes as Boolean only. Then where is the need of conversion again now? Do I have boxing and unboxing operations involved now? See, conversions will take time. One type to another type, another type to another type, time consuming. Now, when you get the value directly as a string now, then what is the point of conversion again? Is it necessary? Did you understand me? So which one is a good performer now? LINQ. Understood all the advantages now? Next. No IntelliSense support. When you're writing SQL queries in your C# application, IntelliSense will not help you in writing the SQL queries. Correct or not? When you put in the double quotes, why IntelliSense will work now? IntelliSense will not work. But do you remember when you write a LINQ query, IntelliSense will help you? Order by is a single word. When you're typing, IntelliSense will show you. Sending as a sending is a single word. IntelliSense will show you all these things. So what we have here? Full support of IntelliSense. Full support of IntelliSense. Next, no. We cannot debug SQL statements, guys. We cannot debug because these statements will execute on the server, not on your application. They goes to server and execute. They cannot be debugged. But this is pure C# code. What it supports you? Full support of debugging. Full support of debugging. Next. Code is a blend of relational and object-oriented. What is this? In ADO.NET, when you write your code, guys, when you write your code is a combination of relational and object-oriented. What is that, sir? Yes, guys, all SQL code, like select statement, insert statement, update statement, delete statement, all of them has to follow the syntax of your database, not the syntax of your C#. They follow database syntaxes. How do you write an AND operator in SQL? A and A. How do you write an AND operator in C#? Then why the syntax are matching? The syntax are not matching. See now, you're writing code in relational syntax. Understood? But after fetching the data, again you should follow what? Object-oriented syntaxes. After loading the data, you should follow object-oriented syntaxes. So the code is a combination of relational and object-oriented. Relational and object-oriented. Recollect yourself. When you substituted text box values in insert statement, How do you substitute? Actually, you write your insert in double quote. In between, you want to write C# code. You need to open the curly brace and write the C# code. You cannot directly write text box 1.text. Means you understood your combination of relational. Means you're combining both the two things and writing the code now. But what is the specialty here, you know? Pure object-oriented coding. Pure object-oriented coding. Now, in an insert or in a select, I want to use a text box value. I can directly use it. I don't require curly braces or nothing. Because recollect yourself, you never written LINQ queries in double quotes in the C# classes. Yes or not? How did you write a LINQ query in double quote? You never used a double quote at all. Directly, what do you say? Something is equals to from alias in your array or a collection clauses select. You write. You don't put anything in the double quotes. And in between, you want to use a text box value. You can directly use it. You don't require to just separate the relational code in the object-oriented code. So your code is pure object-oriented code. These are the benefits of using LINQ over SQL. Did you understand why we are using LINQ now? What is the first advantage? This will improvise the performance now. Second advantage, this will improvise the performance. This also improvises the performance. Why is there no need boxing and unboxing? So this will improvise your performance again. Third one, there is support for IntelliSense. IntelliSense is one of the important thing. If IntelliSense is not available, we don't remember all the things. We know a method name, but we don't know what the parameters the method takes now. And all we check within the IntelliSense only. Okay. And next, debugging. That is one of the most important concepts that is required for developing a application. If debugging is not available, we don't know where problems are coming now. And last one, pure object-oriented coding. But in ADO.NET, yeah, you did not achieve all these things. In ADO.NET, your statements will follow runtime syntax checking. There is no type safety. There is no IntelliSense support. There is no debugging support. And also, you're required to combine relational and object-oriented and write your coding now. For object-oriented, you're required to follow C# standards. For relational, you're required to follow database standards. If your database is SQL Server standards. If your database is Oracle standards. Are you getting my point here? So these are the advantages or benefits of using LINQ over SQLs. That is why we are just using LINQ. Okay. Now let me give you a clarity. What is pure object-oriented programming, sir? What is pure object-oriented programming? Guys, in LINQ, we don't have tables. We don't have columns. We don't have rows. We don't have stored procedures. We don't have tables. We don't have columns. We don't have rows. We don't have stored procedures. We don't have them? No. Then how do we work? Guys, listen. We don't have table anymore. Every table is a class to you now. Recollect yourself in object-oriented programming. You already learned it, every one of you. Entity. Entities are called tables in relational. Yeah, table. Table means where? Relational. Class in object-oriented. Class and table both are same. We call table in relational, class in object-oriented. So from now onwards, there is no table for you. I'll give you a class. Work with class. Okay. Next. Every table has columns now. What is a column? Column is a attribute of an entity. Now these columns are properties. Next point. You learned an object-oriented programming. What is it? Every record in the table is a unique representation. Every record or row is a unique representation. We have a record or row. No more records or rows here. What are those? instances. You don't have stored procedures. Do you remember when I explained about stored procedures to you in the database programming? I said you a stored procedure is nothing but a method. A procedure is a method now. So now tell me, do you know how to work with classes, properties, instances, and methods? Or should I teach you now? Come on, tell me. Do you know how to work with classes, properties, instances, and methods or not? Not sounding not coming. Yes, sir, lazily. Active, yeah. I am shouting and you're lazily listening. I will sleep in the class. Both of us, let's not come, let us stop it here. Be active, man. Okay, you know how to work with a class. You know how to work with a property. You know how to work with a instance. You know how to work with a method. I don't require to teach you them now. No more table, no more columns, no more rows, no more procedures. It's only classes, properties, instances, methods. That's it. That's what you are going to work from now. Did you understand what is pure object-oriented programming? Yes or not? Yeah. So have a look. So what you're telling? No more tables. Tables are classes. No more columns. Columns are no more records or rows. Their instances, no more stored procedures. Their methods. Is it clear? So this is what we call pure object-oriented programming. We are just adopting pure object-oriented programming standards here without using the traditional relational standards. Are you clearer? Okay. Now there'll be a big question here. Sir, you are telling to treat table as a class. You are telling to treat a table as a class. But where is the class? Should I define it? Did you get my question? You are telling to treat a table as a class. Tables are in the database. I have tables in my database. But where is the class? Should I define this class now? If I need to define this class, I can define the class, but it is time taking. My table has 50 or 60 columns in it. What should I do? I need to write a class with 50, 60 properties now. Every property representing every column now. If 5, 6 columns present, easy, I'll do. But assume like your table has 100 columns. So what should I do? I need to define a class with 100 properties now. My table has 1 million records. I need to create 1 million instances now. Are a hefty coding? Yes or not? And if I ask you to write all this code, what do you say? Array, let it go. I'll go with my traditional ADO.NET only. That is simple and better for me. I don't want to use LINQ. Yes or not? Okay. So this is the confusion. What I mean. Where is this class? Where is the property? Where are the instances? Where are the methods? In database, we have tables, columns, records, everything. But in application, I want classes, properties, instances, methods. Where do we have all these things now? So we need to understand about a concept here called ORM. What is this ORM? Basically, it stands for Object Mapping. Object Relational Mapping is a process which converts relational objects into read that carefully. Object relational mapping is a process which converts relational objects into object-oriented types. What will they do? They will convert relational objects into object-oriented types. Sir, what is this? Yes, guys. Table is a object in the database. In SQL server, you'll remember what is a table? An object. What is treasure? An object. All these you'll find in Object Explorer. The window name itself is that one in Object Explorer. Table is an object. Everything is considered as object there. But when you come to object-oriented programming, what we call them types. What is a class? Type. So, what is ORM? It is a process which converts into base, that converts table into class, that convert the tables into classes, columns into properties, records into instances, procedures into methods. We call the process as ORM. Are you clear? But how to do this ORM? ORM will do this, but how this ORM can be used? Okay. To perform ORM, we are provided with some tools. We are provided with some tools called as ORM tools. Stands for Object Relational Mapper Tools. Here M stands for mapper. Hey, this tool will perform the mapping now. So that's what we call ORM tool. ORM tool in the sense Object Relational Mapper Tool. Object Relational Mapper Tool will do object relational mapping. Understood English? Object Relational Mapper Tool will do object relational mapping. Understood? Okay. Tools like, there are two tools available, guys. First tool, OR Designer. What was the tool? OR Designer, where OR stands for Object Relational. Second one is EDM, Entity Data Model. The first one is OR Designer. Second thing is EDM, Entity Data Model. These are the two tools that are available here, Object Relational Designer and Entity Data Model. Are you guys clearer or not? Understood all of you? Like this, we just have the two tools which can be used for performing the ORM. One is the OR Designer. Second one is the EDM tool. We use the first tool. We use the first tool in LINQ to SQL. We use the second tool in LINQ to entities. And don't forget, the LINQ to entities is nothing but entity framework. Clearer, huh? So we will learn both the two tools here. But what are we learning first? LINQ to SQL or LINQ to entities? So we'll use the tool called OR Designer here. Understood? Okay. Working with OR Design. Working with OR Designer. Watch, guys. I'm going to show you this practically because there's no coding. There's no coding here. It writes all the code for you. The bloody hell is explaining code is only easier. The hell is explaining tools only. Tool will write code, and now I need to tell what code it has written, why did it write, and all the things. But in ADO.NET, it's not tool. You only write all the code. You create your own connection, you create your own command, you create your own adapter, you create your own reader, everything you create. But here, All code it will write. We need to understand that code. That is only the bloody hell now. Understood my point? Okay, fine. We'll do one thing, guys. Let us first connect to the database and we'll create one database and one table. So let me open SQL Server. Let's create one database here. We have some databases here already. One is a Northwind DB. Let me add a new database. I'll name it as MVC DB. Okay. New query. Let's create a table. Student table, SID, int, primary key, name, varchar, class, integer, fees, money, photo, varchar of 100, status, bit, not null, default one. You remember status, na? Status will store you true or false value. True indicates active and false indicates inactive. Default value is always one. One means true. Active means we need to insert records only into ID, name, class, fees, photo. Status is auto-generate. Okay, automatic that is. Okay, create. The table is ready. Now see, what is your table? Right now, no records are there. We will insert them. Now you need a class called student in your application with all the 6 properties. Did you guys understand my point now? Tomorrow if the 100 columns, 100 properties, 1000 columns, 1000 properties. You need a class with how many? 6 properties. So either I should write this class code manually or the tool will do it. Come on. The tool will do it. Who is the tool? OR designer will do that. Okay. Let us create a project. Have a look, guys. I'm creating a project. Create a new project. Yeah, ASP.NET web application. I'm naming it as MVC with LINQ 1. First example on this MVC with LINQ 1. Click on create. We'll go with MVC template. I already explained you all these things to you. Directly we'll go with the MVC template. MVC template, create. Okay, done. What now? The first step is you need to perform object relational mapping first. If you want to write the code first, the classes should be ready now. Okay, the first step is you need to perform a object relational mapping. We have one table only today, but tomorrow there can be 10 tables, 20 tables, whatever it is. You need to do the ORM. How to do? To do that, you're required to add OR designer in your project. You're required to add the OR designer in the project. Actually, here look it out. By default, our project will have some references now. By default, our project will have some references. If you want, you can add your own references. You can add your own references also. So by default, you have some references. Do you have any reference for system.data.link anywhere? See? No, not there because they are in alphabetical order. System.data.link is not there. But to work with LINQ to SQL, I need to add a reference to system.data.link assembly and then import the namespace. Understood? So I need to add a reference. I'll add it. Remember that point. What is that? System.data.link. That is not there. Okay. We need to get a reference for that. We'll do it. Okay. Meanwhile, first I'll start with adding the OR design. Adding the OR design. And that will create you the classes. And those classes are nothing but your model classes. Array, customer class now. Sorry, student class is the model class now. Means these models, basically, what did I say? Models are for interacting to database now. Now we are doing the same thing. Earlier, blank models were taken. Now models associated to database. Models associated to database is what we are using. So why I said you that is better add in the models folder. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Anywhere you can do that, but that's a model. So that's why do in the models folder. Can I add in the project, sir? Yeah, you can add anywhere. Yeah, these models are mandatory. Yeah? Just for identification, this is a controller, this is a view, this is a model. That's all. Na. Folders are not physical. Folders are only logical. Okay. So let us add it under the models folder. Right click, add, new item. Look, guys, what is the item you're required to add? In the left-hand side, select data. We're dealing with the data. And now in the right-hand side, you'll find link to SQL classes. This is the WAR designer. Are you clearer? This is the WAR designer. You need to add the OR designer in your project. It will add you an item in the project with an extension .dbml. What is the extension? Stands for database markup language. Database markup language. What name? Any name you can have. You can see what are the names here default. Data classes 1.dbml. Any name, but we have a standard. What is that? You know, the standard is always it is advised. Always it is advised to use your database name as a name here. Not mandatory, again, I'm telling you. It's a good practice. What's the database name? MVC DB. Your database name is MVC DB, remember? So what is the name I'm giving? Just now I said your extension DBML stands for database markup language. Click on the add button. It adds a window in your project which will have two panels on it. It looks like a split container. It's a container here, split into two parts. Are you clear? It's a container which is split into two parts. Clearer or not? So this is going to, you're going to add the OR design. Now, listen. What happens when we add OR designer under the project? When we add OR designer under the project, the following actions gets performed. The following actions gets performed. First one, guys, watch. What is the first one, you know? Adds reference of system.data.link. That only I said you. We need a reference for system.data.link. Check it out. Not there, I said you. We need to add, I said you. We don't require to. You added OR designer now? OR designer will do it. Go and see. Check out. Got it? System.data.link. See, automated, guys. Everything automated. Tools will do everything. You added that brought you the reference. System.data.link assembly. Clear till now? Yes or not? Second. It defines, it adds a class under the project with the name MVC DB data context. it adds a class under the project with the name MVC data context. Okay, just observe. Reference adding is clear now. Next, you added your DBML under the models now. Watch it. This is the DBML. Expand it. Here you will find two things. What is it? DBML.layout, designer.cs. And do you guys remember designer.cs? Designer.cs means, what did I say? These files are purely for Studio to write the code. We should not touch them at all. We cannot write any code. We can modify this. Designer.cs files are purely for Studio to write the code. If the Studio has to write the code will be under Designer. And we should not write any code under the Designer. We should not touch that at all. Are you clear? So what is the file name? And when you expand it, see that it is showing you a class in the file now. What is the class? MVCDB data context. That told me I sent you here. MVCDB data context. Are you clearer or not? Is adding a class called MVCDB data context. MVCDB data context is a class. Okay. MVCDB data context is a class that inherits from data context class, which is defined under system.data.link namespace. Read it carefully. You want to define your own exception class. You want to define your own exception class. What will you do? You define a class, inherit from the predefined class exception so that the new class is also an exception. Correct? Now, you want to define a class. You want to define a class representing a data context. What is the data context? I'll tell you. That is secondary. If you want to define your own exception, what are we doing? Define a class, inherit from exception. My new class is an exception. Now, what I want to define is a data context. So define a class inheriting from. So the new class is also data context now. Are you clear? Sir, what is this name, sir? This is nothing but your DBML file name is used as a prefix there. That's all. If your DBML file name is a test.dbml, class name will be test data context. If your DBML file name is xyz.dbml, your class name will be xyz data context. That is your DBML file name, remember. Are you clear? Okay. Next. This class represents a connection. This class represents a connection. Which class? Data context. Data context class represents a connection. That is, when you create the instance of this class, it will connect to the database to perform any operations. Read it carefully. Data context class represents connection. You know connection now? Oh, few people learned now. You learned in Windows. Some of you have learned in every languages again now. Data context class represents connection. That is, when you create the instance of this class, it will connect to the database to perform any operations. It will connect to the database for performing any operations. What operations? CRUD operations. For performing the CRUD operations. Are you clearer or not? Understood? So that is what. So it will define you this class now. And this class will be inherited from data context. Data context represents what? Connection. Means MVC DB data context also represents the connection now. Clearer or not? And see guys, tomorrow you will be working with the 2-3 databases. Then you'll have 2 or 3 data context classes also. I want to work with a Northwind database. I have a class called Northwind data context. I want to work with some XYZ database. I'll have a class called as XYZ data context. It will become easy for you to identify now. You want to connect with Northwind, create the instance of Northwind data context. You want to connect with MVCDB, create the instance of MVCDB data context. That is how it will differentiate for you now. Point clear, all of you? That's what. So data context class represents connection. That is when you create the instance of this class, it connects to the database to performing the operations. Okay. Next. Under MVC DB data context, right now we have 4 for creating the instance. Because in the previous point we discussed, like when you create the instance, it will establish a connection now. So now you want to create an instance. If you want to create an instance, what is important for you? Constructor. Correct? And there are 4 constructors, and all the 4 are, you want to see them? Come on, let's see. No need to open the file here. Everything you can see here only. Expand it. The 4 constructors. First one taking string as a parameter. Second one taking IDB connection as a parameter. Third one taking string and mapping source as a parameter. Fourth one taking IDB connection and mapping source as a parameter. Like this, we have 4 parameterized constructors. If you want to, if you can open the file and also verify everything what I taught you. Watch it. Public partial class. It's a partial class. Remember all of you. MVCDB context inheriting from which namespace? Clearer? And check it out. There are 4 constructors. First one. All are MVCDB context only. Read the parameter. 4 are parameterized only. Okay, whatever is the parameter doesn't matter. 4 are para. Other than that, nothing is there in the class. We have one variable called mapping source. And the private variable, no need to talk about it. Private members are not accessible out of the class. Don't talk about that. So what we need to understand is only about this 4 constructor. Other than that, nothing is there in the class. Are you clear till now? So when you added a OR designer, when you added the OR designer, what happened? 2 things happened. First one, added reference per system.data.sql client. Second one, defined you a class called as MVCDB data context inheriting from data context. Data context is a connection. So now MVCDB context is also connection. So when I create MVCDB context, my intention is to connect with MVCDB database. Is it clear? But sir, you've given the name as MVCDB. But where did you tell the database details? You did not tell the username, password, anything. You did not tell at all. Then how will it know? Did you get my question? Go and write your connection string in the config file. Go and write your connection string in the config file. Your class will read the config file and connect. You don't require to read also. But recollect yourself. In your Windows and ASP.NET, you only read. You only read a configuration manager dot connection strings of connection string name dot connection string. You read it explicitly, but here no need to read. It will only read. It will only read. Did you understand me? Sir, do I need to write? That is also not required. That is also not required. It only writes to you also. Wait. It did not write. It will write for you also. Watch. Go to the Solution Explorer. Open web.config. And check it out. There is no connection string in the code. What do you have? System.code.tom runtime system.web We don't have connection string. Check it out. Not there now. We need a connection string here, right? And this connection string will be read by my data context class. Will be read by my data context class. Okay. How to do that, I'll tell you. That only I said you. At a complete automated here, it will write code. We need to understand the code. That is only hell now. Did you catch my point? Writing. Why is it writing? That's what I'm telling you. Understood till now? Any confusion? Any doubts with anything? Everything clear? We did not even a single character code also till now. Understood? What you done? You opened a project, added what designer, given a name for it. That's all. Other than that, you did not do anything. Okay. Now, which tables you want to work with? Which database and which tables? Want to work with MVC database and student table. Correct now? You want to work with MVC database and student table. Then do one thing. Open the Server Explorer and configure your database here first. Open the Server Explorer and configure your database. Where you find the Server Explorer? View menu. And here you'll be finding the Server Explorer. It's already here. It's already here. Otherwise, you'll find the view menu. Already opened it. Server Explorer. And what's the next step? You need to configure your database here. Just a minute. Yeah. Remember how to configure? Help me. Right click on data connections. Right click on add connection. It is taking Oracle. So click on change. Want to connect with? Click on OK. Come on. What should I give you? My server name is server. My server name is server only. Next, Windows authentication, SQL authentication, SQL authentication. My system's user ID, SA. My system password, 123. Select the option, save my password. If all your provided details are correct, your database should come in the list now. Got it? 3 databases, ASP DB, MVC DB, NotDB, all are coming now. Why? My details are correctly provided. So which database is yours? Select it, MVC DB. And here you'll find a button. What is that? Test connection. Click on that, it will tell you. Succeeded. And click on the OK button. And now this will add you the database here. Do we have any stored procedures? No. We created only one table, that's all. Just now we created database and table. But now we can have multiple tables. But now we have only one table. So guys, what now? You understood? Configure the database. What next? Drag and drop that table onto the left-hand side panel of the Word design. Drag and drop the table onto the left-hand side panel of the Word designer. If it is a procedure, right-hand side panel. If it is a table, left-hand side panel. Understood? Right now you have a table of procedure. Table. So drag this table, drop it on the left-hand side panel, and you will see a visual representation of the table now. Check it out. What is this icon, guys? This is a class now, and these are the 6 properties in the class now. So did it define the class? Yes, it defined the class. Are you guys clearer or not? Simple drag and drop. Now your doubt will be, sir, what happens when I drag and drop the table? What happens when I drag and drop the table? I'll tell you. Watch. What happens when we drag and drop the first object on the Word design? First object here. First object can be table or a stored procedure also. Are you clear? Today we started with the table. Tomorrow we may start with a procedure. That's your choice. So it can be a table, it can be a stored procedure. What happens when we drag and drop the first object. The first object can be table or store procedure on the OR designer. When we drag and drop the first object on OR designer, okay, OR designer, the following actions gets performed. When you drag and drop the first object, the following actions are performed. What are the one? First one, acts. Go and check it out. You have connection string in the config file now. Return of the connection string here. What is the name it has given? Array, we give our own name. We give SQL con str something. Your choice. That's not a matter. But this name is lengthy. None of your business. Why? You don't read it, na? Array, if you read it, name is lengthy. Yes, our name is shorter. That is the question. Are you not going to read it at all? All automated code only. All these things automated code. So it is lengthy or shorter. Doesn't matter for me at all. Just only verify connection string is present or not. That's all. Just say connection string, data source, server, initial catalog. Initial catalog means database name. Okay. I tried something called persistent secured input. User ID, password. User ID and the password. This persistent security info is equals to means encrypt the data. Yes, that is only to tell encrypt the data. Provider name. You know all these things. Are you clear? And see, in edu.net, we used to write this connection string manually. But LINQ has written this automated for you. Point clear? Yes, for each database, you need to create a separate DBML file. You cannot have the same DBML file for all databases. First point clear? Second, defines a default constructor in MVC DB data context class, and you can now use, or you can use this constructor for creating the instance of the class, which will only read the connection string from config file. I am not responsible. Who is responsible? That constructor only is responsible in reading. Okay, understand. Defines a default constructor in. For this reason only, I first said you. What is it? 4 constructors are already there, but all the 4 are parameterized. Yes or not? Now you have the 5th constructor. Which constructor? Default. You can use this default constructor in your application to create the instance. When you create the instance, it will connect to config file, read the connection string, and connects to the database. You are not responsible in reading the connection string at all. Is my point clear? Can I see the constructor, sir? Yeah, you can. Come on. Go to models. Just sometimes until you build the code, you may not see the changes immediately. That's all. Will I drag the table? Just a second. What happened? Did they modify? Hold on, please. I'm not sure. The old one. I don't know whether this is modified in the new version, because by default, the default constructor should come in the class for creating the instance. So modified in the new version, guys. We are not getting the default constructor. So should I pass my name then? Maybe there's a new change in the current version. It's not having the default constructor, but till now, till our old version, it immediately generate a default constructor. It immediately generate a default constructor. We'll find 5 constructors. Maybe they modified this in the new version. I'll also Google and find out. I'm not sure because I'm not getting the default constructor here. Okay. But until the whole compulsory will have a default constructor. Maybe they modified this or don't. I'm not sure. So I'm just putting this particular point as pending. The second thing, but I will just verify and just tell that because under the old version, we compulsory will have a default constructor. Okay, just this one we will conclude it. But first point is clear now. What it will do? Adds a connection string in the config file. So this should define, but maybe this is modified in the new version. I'll verify that. I'll verify and tell you because if it is verified, I need to change my complete nodes now. In the complete nodes, I used the default constructor only for creating the instance. So compulsory, I need to change it. I'll re-verify and I'll come to a conclusion. Okay. So first point clear. Second thing, we'll see while writing the code, we'll check it out. Whether default constructor mandatory or not, while writing the code, we'll check. Okay. So whenever you drag and drop your first object, the first object can be a table, or the first object can be here. These actions are going to be performed. Understood? But these actions are performed only one time here. They are one-time actions. Why? Clearly mentioned you first object. First object means it's a one-time action. They won't repeat. Are you clearer or not? Okay, the one-time action. Okay. Finally, look at this now. What happens when we drag and drop a table on the OAuth design? You'll have a doubt now. What are the doubts? So what is the difference between the previous question and the current question? That's not table or procedure. No, is not the point there. That is for the first object. And what I'm telling you now repeats for every table. Array, what I'm not telling now repeats for. Tomorrow we have 10 tables here. First table will do a set of actions not repeated by the remaining 9. Are you clear? For all 10 tables will do things in common. All 10 will do few things in common. You understand the difference? Huh? So what happens when we drag and drop a table on the OAuth designer? When we drag and drop a table on OAuth designer, the below actions are performed. First one defines a class. Defines a class representing the table, which is nothing but, and the name of the class will be same as table name. Array, table is a class now. That's what I said to you. What is your table? Student. Your class called student. Check it out. Is your file now? Second class came into picture now. Now you drag and drop on the table, another class will come. How many tables you drag and drop, that many classes will come there now. Are you getting me? Okay, this is the first thing. Second, defines properties under the class where each property representing a column. Column means attribute. Your column is nothing but attribute of entity. Attribute of entity. And the name of those properties will be same as column names. So we have 6 columns now. Tell me the names. ID, idea, SID. SID. SID, name, class, fees, photo, status. SID, integer, name, string, class, integer, fees, decimal, photo, string, status, boolean. You observe it, guys. Class, int as a question mark. Fees, decimal as a question mark. Why so? Because, listen. SID is the primary key column in the table. Does it accept null values? So if that doesn't accept null value, my application also should not accept a null value in the SID now. That is why that's a normal integer. Okay. Now when you come to class, this class is not having any constraint in the table now. Means will accept null values. If it accepts null values, my application also should accept null value now. That's why see there into question mark. Same case with fees also. Same with name also. Sir, no question mark. Why you require? Strings are nullable. Strings are nullable. Tomorrow, see, status is there. Status also value type only. But don't forget, on the status you apply. So that's a boolean came here with without a question mark. If I don't use not null here, what you'll see here? Full question mark. We see how intelligently it has mapped everything. Table accepts null, application accepts null. Table doesn't accept null. If you write the code, we will make 100 mistakes now. Guarantee. Why? We should map correctly. Table accepts, I should accept. Table doesn't accept, I should not accept. And all these mappings, if I don't do correctly, lot of errors will be coming now. But what designer will do all these particular things perfectly to you, decreasing the burden on the programmer. Understood? Are you clear? So for every table you drag and drop, it will define you a new class and it will define you associated property. For every property, there's a matching field. See. Underscore. Recollect all the standards I explained you the C# to you already. A field that is associated with a property should be declared with a underscore. See there, underscore aside. Got it? Okay. All these things are just automatically generated for you. Another table drag and drop, another class also will be defined. Lastly, third point. It defines a property under MVC DB data context class of type table. Of type table of student. And this is your table on which you need to perform all the. You want a table to do the CRUD operations now? This is your table. This is your table. It defines a property under MVC DB data context class of which type? Table of students. Okay, just a minute. And the name of the property is, and this is your table on which you need to perform all the CRUD operations. You're going to write a select on this. You're going to write a insert on this. You're going to write a update on this. You're going to write a delete on this. On what? Your table is not a student anymore. That's what I said to you. You're not working with the table. You'll work with your class. Students means table of student. So this will contain all the values in it. Hey, list of student means a collection of student records now. Table of student. A collection of student records now. And this is your table. What is the name? Students. Check it out. Where you have, which class I said you? Data context class. Expand it. Check it out. The type is a table of student. Now you drag and drop a teacher table. You drag and drop a teacher table. You will get a teacher's property here. You can drag and drop a book table. You will get a book's property here. Understood? So all of you carefully observe. What is the difference between student and students, sir? Student is your entity. Student is your, and students is your table. A collection of student will become students now. Are you clearer or not? A collection of student records will become students. This is the table. This is the entity. Understood? I thought all these things in your C#, you're putting blank faces, go and refer to that. In the C# I taken customer. Customer created 15 records. List of customer. I added all the 15 and I showed you writing queries on that already. Go and refer. That's why I said yesterday, I reminded you that only. If you forgot it, go and refer to your C# notes or watch the videos on the YouTube channel. I taught all these concepts to you already. But earlier we done everything manually. Today all are automated. On the day also done it. Customers is the name I've taken. Customer means customers. Customers is nothing but a list of customer. Collection name is customers I taken. Today in the place of list, what came? Table, not student. Table. In the place of list, what came? Table. In the place of customer, what came? Student. In the place of customers, what came? Students. Lista, dictionary, table, all are same. Understood my point? List means will hold the values horizontally. Table means will hold the values vertically. That's it. Other than the table and list, it doesn't have any difference. You know how to work with lists in your C# now? Same process to work with the table. Sir, I don't know how to work with the table. Don't worry. Directly, there is a method called the to list. You call it, it will convert off into list. You're not working with list now? Work with list now. Am I clear? Okay, so that is what. So this is the table for us from now onwards. All my CRUD operations should be performed on the students, selecting, inserting everything on the students only. And every table you drag and drop will perform these three activities. You take one more table, you will get a class now. You drag the teacher table, you will find a class called a teacher. And inside the teacher, you will find the properties representing attributes of the teacher, ID, name, subject, salary, designation, all the things you have. Next, you'll have teacher's property of type table of teacher. Table of teacher. Same way, take a big table, repeats. But these two steps will repeat only for the first object. And the second step only, that's what I'm telling you. Confused. I'm only confused because I did not get it. Maybe that's a new change. Let me verify. Let me verify and tell you in the next session. Maybe they modified this particular thing. But until the old version, until my previous batch, that construct is defined. That's why I printed that explicitly in my notes all. See, everything what I taught you, I given you in detailed steps. Adds a reference. Next, it'll create you a class called MVC DB context. MVC DB context. And all these particular things what I explained, you're creating the student to see. When you drag and drop the first object, table or procedure, what happens? Two steps are mentioned there. And when we drag and drop a table, all the three steps. Clearer? I said you, starting only I said you, the confusion is understanding what it generates only. If you write, we are clear. We don't write. Who is writing? Studio is writing. That is why all this confusion. That way I said you, if you miss this class, you will not understand or you cannot follow the rest. That's why I said you, this is the most. But when you write code here, it is simple here. We don't have all this pain. But I think when you write code, nothing, very simple. If you have any confusions on this still, okay? I have posted videos also on this particular thing, link to SQL. Watch the first, second video. First video, I think the first video only, I demonstrated all this. But in the video, I shown it with a Windows project. Whatever is the project, their concept is same only. Understood my point? If you have any doubts, watch the video. In the video, I think I used employee or customer table. I don't remember correctly. I used employee or customer table and I demonstrated all these particular things with Windows, if Windows project and all. If you have any doubts, refer to that video and compare the notes and just check all that operating. In the video, you will find this one. What? Default construct. That one telling in my last version also, in my last batch also it was there. Suddenly it was missing. Maybe they modified it in the new version. I'm not aware. Okay, that will I'm telling. I will refer that and I'll verify that and I'll tell you. Meanwhile, you just watch videos and practice up to here. Dragging and dropping. You would not have any code and all. Create table, drag and drop, read all the things and check. In next class, I'll tell you the coding. How to code by using all these classes and everything. Okay, let's stop here. We'll be done Monday. No, Sampada, we don't communicate with the table at all. We only talk with our objects. That's all. We only talk with our table. What is our table? That is nothing but a class. It's pure object oriented. That's all. Yes, if the table name ends with yes, your property name will be end with yes. That is why I given the table as a student. And in C# I said you this point. What? Table names should not be pluralized. You should never create a table with the name called students. Stop talking, guys. Stop talking. Stop talking. You never should create a table with the name called students. The table should be student. Why? If it is student, you will get students here. If your table name is students, you will get students. Yes, one more S will come. That's why don't pluralize the table names.
Recording stopped.